Persian Gulf, January 8th, local time 01, al-Asad Airbase in western Iraq, home to 1,500 American soldiers, runways, hangars, command facilities, barracks. The base had been on high alert for 5 days, ever since January 3rd, ever since the drone strike that killed Qasem Soleimani. Every soldier already knew retaliation was coming. The question wasn't if, the real question was when. Colonel Michael Henderson commanded the 82nd Airborne Battalion deployed at the base. He had received intelligence briefings every 6 hours. Iranian ballistic missile units observed in launch preparation. Possible launch window, next 12 hours. At 22 on January 7th, Henderson made the decision. All personnel to harden shelters. This is not a drill. The base had 58 thick concrete shelters, built during the Iraq War, designed to withstand indirect fire. Soldiers gathered equipment, ran to the shelters. They had drilled this dozens of times, but this wasn't a drill. 470 kilometers to the east, inside Iran, a different scene was unfolding. At 3 separate military bases, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps aerospace forces were preparing ballistic missiles. 11 Fateh 3113, short-range ballistic missiles, range 500 kilometers, payload 650 kilograms, high explosive, precision 10-meter circular error probability. This wasn't the primitive technology America expected. These were precision weapons, GPS-guided, capable of hitting specific buildings. Iranian command had spent 5 days planning this attack, analyzing satellite imagery of al-Asad, identifying American positions, selecting targets. They knew where the Americans slept, where they worked, where they stored equipment. But Iran faced a strategic calculation. Kill Americans, and the United States launches major retaliation. Probably regime change, probably invasion. Don't kill Americans, and appear weak, fail to avenge Soleimani, lose credibility, both domestically and regionally. Iranian leadership chose a middle path, demonstrate capability, hit the base hard, but give the Americans time to take cover, send a message without crossing the line into full-scale war. At 1112, the ANTPY-2 radar in Iraq detected multiple launches from western Iran. The alarm immediately reached the al-Asad Combat Operations Center. Missile alert, multiple launches detected. Direction 082, range 470 kilometers. Impact time 11 minutes. Henderson was already in the command shelter. Sound the alarm. All personnel confirm shelter status. Sirens screamed across the base. The sound was deafening, urgent, terrifying. Specialist Corporal Marcus Webb was in the gym when the alarm sounded. He grabbed his equipment and ran. The shelter was 200 meters away. Concrete stairs descending underground. 20 other soldiers were already inside. They had been told the shelters could withstand everything except a direct hit. Webb hoped that was true. At 1:23:15, the first missile struck. The explosion was massive, a Fateh 313 warhead detonating on the northern runway. The blast created a crater 8 meters wide and 3 meters deep. The shockwave rippled across the base. Windows shattered. Vehicles were thrown sideways. Inside the shelter, Webb felt the ground shake. Dust fell from the ceiling. The lights flickered. "Stay down," someone shouted. 5 seconds later, the second impact occurred. This one hit the maintenance hangar. The building collapsed. Then the third, and fourth, and fifth. Bombs were raining down one after another. The bombardment lasted exactly 6 minutes. 11 missiles, 11 impacts, an explosion every 30 to 40 seconds. The sound was literally apocalyptic. Each explosion shook everything like an earthquake. Pressure waves compressed the air. Webb pressed himself against the concrete wall, hands over his ears, eyes closed. He thought about his family in Ohio, about whether he would see them again. At 1:29, silence. Henderson waited 2 minutes, then gave the all clear. Soldiers emerged from the shelters, looked at their base. It was destroyed. Runways cratered, hangars collapsed, vehicles burning, fires spreading. But as Henderson conducted accountability checks, he noticed something remarkable. No casualties. Not a single American soldier killed. Dozens injured from flying debris and shockwaves. But no deaths. The missiles were accurate, very accurate. They had hit their targets precisely. But those targets had been carefully selected to avoid American personnel. Iranian commanders had deliberately aimed at empty buildings, runways, vehicle parks. They had sent a message: "We can hit you anywhere, but we choose not to kill you." What the United States didn't understand was the deeper humiliation.
Iran had just demonstrated something unprecedented. A Middle Eastern military had struck a major US military installation with ballistic missiles, and the United States had done nothing to stop it. No interception, no counter-battery fire, no preemptive strike. American forces had simply hidden in shelters and waited for the attack to end. In Tehran, Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei addressed the nation at 03. Last night they were slapped. Military action is not enough. America must leave. The crowd erupted, chanting slogans, celebrating. Iranian state media broadcast footage of the missile launches, the impacts, the destruction. The narrative was clear. Iran struck back.
America cowered. The balance of power had shifted. In Washington, President Trump received the damage assessment at 1845 EST. 11 ballistic missiles struck al-Asad Airbase. Extensive infrastructure damage. 0 American casualties. Approximately 50 wounded. None critical. National security advisors presented options: airstrikes, cyber attacks, assassination of additional Iranian leaders. But Trump made a different calculation. The next morning he addressed the nation. Iran appears to be standing down. No Americans were harmed. We will impose additional economic sanctions. He declared victory, claimed Iran had backed down, but the reality was far more complex. The United States had absorbed a direct attack on its forces and chosen not to respond militarily. This was unprecedented behavior. For decades, American military doctrine had been clear. Any attack on US forces would be met with overwhelming retaliation. But on January 8, 2020, that doctrine was tested, and America blinked. The strategic implications were immediate. Iran had proven it could strike US bases with precision, without triggering full-scale war. The deterrence equation had changed. American allies in the region took note. If the US wouldn't respond to a missile attack on its own forces, what would it respond to? Saudi Arabia, UAE, Israel, all countries relying on American military protection, all wondering whether that protection was still reliable. Iran's regional proxies also took note. Hezbollah, Iraqi militias, Houthi forces in Yemen. The message was clear. America's red lines were negotiable. But the deeper story was what happened in the hours before the attack. Iranian intelligence had penetrated American communications. They knew the alert level at Ain al-Asad. They knew personnel had been ordered to the shelters. Some analysts believe Iran received this information through Iraqi intermediaries. Others suggest signals intelligence, interception of American military communications. Whatever the method, Iran knew the Americans were prepared, knew they were in shelters, which meant Iran could strike without causing casualties, could demonstrate capability without triggering retaliation. It was a perfectly calibrated attack, demonstrating power without forcing escalation. Meanwhile, the United States couldn't intercept a single missile. Patriot air defense systems deployed in Iraq were designed for exactly this scenario. Theater ballistic missile defense, but they didn't fire. Either they weren't properly positioned, or the missiles came from angles the Patriots couldn't engage, or a decision was made not to engage. The official explanation was never made public, but the result was clear. 11 Iranian missiles hit their targets, 0 intercepted. For a military that spends $700 billion a year, this was humiliating. Damage assessment revealed the precision of the attack. One missile hit the aircraft parking area, destroyed 6 helicopters, $60 million lost. Another hit the operations center, collapsed the building, destroyed all equipment inside. A third hit the fuel storage area, triggered secondary explosions, burned for 12 hours. Total infrastructure damage, approximately $100 million. But the real damage was psychological and strategic. American soldiers at Ain al-Asad had experienced something US forces hadn't faced in decades, being on the receiving end of a precision attack, unable to defend, unable to respond, only able to endure. For soldiers accustomed to air superiority, overwhelming firepower, this was a shock. The Pentagon's narrative was different. They emphasized 0 casualties, highlighted the effectiveness of the shelters, praised the early warning systems, but they somehow didn't mention that Iran had deliberately avoided killing Americans. They didn't mention that the US couldn't intercept anything. They never mentioned that a regional power had just demonstrated it could strike US forces at will. In the following months, the effects became even clearer. Iran increased support to proxy forces. Iraqi militias launched more attacks on US positions. Houthi forces in Yemen escalated operations, all testing the same question: will America retaliate? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. The response was inconsistent, certainly unpredictable. American deterrence, which relied on certainty of response, was now uncertain. By June 2020, the US had withdrawn from 3 bases in Iraq, consolidated forces, reduced presence. The official explanation was strategic realignment. The reality was vulnerability. If Iran could hit Ain al-Asad, it could hit other bases, and the US had no reliable defense. Iranian military planners studied the attack comprehensively, drew lessons, refined tactics. They concluded that carefully calibrated precision attacks that avoid mass casualties could achieve strategic objectives without triggering American retaliation. This became Iranian doctrine, applied in subsequent operations. In 2021, Iran-backed militias struck US positions in Syria. Precision drone strikes, no casualties, no American response. In 2022, similar attacks in Iraq, same pattern. Each time, the United States absorbed the attack, issued statements, imposed sanctions, but didn't retaliate militarily. The Ain al-Asad attack had established a new normal. America could be hit, and America would accept it. This was a strategic defeat, not on the battlefield, in the realm of deterrence. For decades, American military power rested on one principle: attack us, and we will destroy you. But Iran had found the gap. Attack carefully, avoid mass casualties, and America will calculate that retaliation isn't worth the risk. The soldiers at Ain al-Asad knew this. They had lived it. Months later, many reported psychological trauma, not from physical danger, from helplessness. They had been trained to fight, to respond, to dominate. Instead, they had hidden in shelters while an enemy attacked their base, and then watched their government do nothing. Specialist Corporal Webb was among them. He returned to the US in March 2020, received treatment for traumatic brain injury from the blast waves. But the physical injury wasn't the worst part, just target practice. He said in an interview a year later, "We couldn't fight back, couldn't defend ourselves, just had to sit there and take it." Did you feel your government abandoned you? Webb was silent for a long moment. I felt like we were sent somewhere we couldn't win, where the rules didn't allow us to fight back, where the enemy could hit us and we'd just absorb it. Do you think there should have been retaliation? I think if you're going to send soldiers somewhere, you need to be willing to defend them. Really defend them, not just with shelters. The strategic lesson of Ain al-Asad is still being written. Some analysts argue Trump made the right choice. De-escalation prevented war, saved lives, avoided catastrophe. Others argue it set a dangerous precedent, showed weakness, encouraged more attacks. Both interpretations have merit. What's undeniable is that January 8, 2020 changed the dynamic between the United States and Iran. Iran definitively proved it could strike American forces directly, with precision, without triggering regime change. America proved it would accept such attacks if casualties were minimized. The deterrence balance shifted, not dramatically, but meaningfully, and every American soldier in the Middle East now knows the base you're on can be hit, missiles may be incoming, and you may not be protected. The question they ask, is this mission worth the risk? The question Iran asks, what else can we do?